You are listening to the CittaCalcioUsa show, the only news and podcast in English about AS Cittadella. Hello everyone, welcome back to the CittaCalcioUsa show, episode number 166, coming to you on Wednesday, April 9th. A very, let's say, dual contest between Carrarese and Cittadella this last Saturday, 0-0 at the Stadio Pier Cesare Tombolato, a game where both sides did not or could not afford to lose the match, and this was quite evident shown in the game. But now it is a massive, massive away trip to a very unpredictable Sampdoria side who are on to their fourth coach of the season. So lots to get into, lots to dive into. And to help me with this, we are happy that he is back on this podcast for, I believe, the third time now since I started inviting more guests last year. So please welcome back from Il Corriere del Veneto, Carlo Cecino. Carlo, how are you?
Hi Jake, I'm fine. I hope you're fine too, and thank you for inviting me. Maybe it's the fourth time, I don't remember, but third or fourth time, and I'm very happy to talk with you about Cittadella.
Yeah, it's I love having you on because you're very knowledgeable about the team, and like I said, you're always in the press conference Conferenza Stampa, always asking Dal Canto stuff. So this is a great inside talk for you. And
Thanks.
just in case anybody doesn't know, in case we have a few new listeners or haven't watched the previous episodes, before we start, why don't you tell everyone kind of what you do for Il Corriere del Veneto and what's your presence at Cittadella for when covering the team?
Yes, I'm writing for Cittadella since 2022, so it's my fourth year speaking
Yes.
about Cittadella for newspaper. And yes, if anybody wants to read my articles, they have to buy Corriere della Sera, and inside Corriere della Sera there is the regional newspaper Corriere del Veneto, and in the sports pages I write for Cittadella every day, talking about the news, the matches, the transfer market, interviews. So everything about Cittadella during the week.
Yeah, and if anybody listens to the Conferenza Stampa either before or after the game, you'll definitely hear Carlo's voice every now and then and asking
Exactly.
Dal Canto some questions. And he'll,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, you'll be there once again this Friday.
Yes.
And yeah, asking Dal Canto some questions on the Sampdoria game, which we'll get into in a little bit. But let's first dive into a little bit of this Carrarese game. This was, like we said going into it, we knew the importance of this game, contra Salvezza, and we knew that there was only 7 games remaining at that point. 6 of the last 7 games for Cittadella, they were going to be playing teams in the bottom half of the table. And this game, I think, I don't know if you could agree, but this game went exactly how I expected. I don't know if any other people expected, but it was, very tight game, very, I'd say, nervous game. And you could definitely tell both teams did not want to lose this because a loss would have been really devastating in the game, in the season. Yes, it would not been a final blow, but for Cittadella, not losing in a home game, that would have been their 6th home loss, and Carrarese trying to just escape with a point, which we talked about. They weren't very good on the road this season, and Cittadella not good at home. So, Carlo, I'm gonna just ask, basic question. What were your thoughts on the game, and did it go like exactly how you thought it was gonna be? Like I said.
In my opinion, as I just told you, any teams didn't want to lose the game, so the fear of losing the game prevails on the hunting to take a win. because in the last games, any point matters, and if you lose a clash against a team that are near you in the table, also for the mentality of the team could be a punch in the stomach if you if you lose.
Yes. Yes.
So it's better a draw and to maybe try to gain a win, but you can't afford the win, and if you can lose a game, it's so dangerous for every team that are fighting for salvezza. And yes, I agree with you. I think that the game has as gone as anybody think, because in this kind of games any mistake could be lethal for both teams. So the any everything didn't want to make a mistake that permit to other team to take a win. So near a nil, a draw, 0-0, nil, not a memorable game to watch.
Mhm.
I think Carrarese shown something more in the second part of the second half, because after Rabi
Hit the post.
hit
Yeah, that was like
hit the
right after a
yes,
few seconds after
Rabi,
the halftime. Yeah.
Cittadella didn't do a lot of things in offense zone, and so Carrarese gained the territory and created some more chances with Milanese. I think the more dangerous player from Carrarese, but it wasn't a great match to watch, and I want to underline that it was the first game with a lot of heat, because it was 3 p.m. and in the second half, team were so tired, and the rhythm of the game it wasn't so intense like maybe the previous games. And there is also, I think the most important thing for Cittadella has been that they gain a point at home, because, as
Yes.
you said, it was a streak of five loss at Tombolato, the worst record for the club.
Yes.
But maybe take a point was a little boost of energy for the team, not a great boost of energy, but brick by brick, maybe with against Carrarese take a draw, and in the next game at home maybe take an important win. And
Mm.
in my opinion, in the rest of the games until the end of the season will have a similar texture. So maybe a lot both teams don't want to lose, and
I was just about to say that. I mean, we're probably going to expect the next 6 games to be exactly how it was just played, living really on a knife's edge. And really, I think it's going to be these games are going to be decided by really one moment, one
yeah,
episodio,
yeah,
as you say
yes,
in
the
Italy.
episode,
Yes,
yes,
whether that be a set piece, a bad defensive mistake, kind of like what we saw in Catanzaro, if you remember, through
yes,
Matino and Maniero.
money,
One moment like that, or one penalty, one free kick,
yes, yes,
it's really gonna come down to that. You have to really think, because this game also, I think Carrarese definitely could have won it, as well as Cittadella. They had that shot by Rabi who hit the post after a few seconds, which would have been quite kind of crazy, because in the previous match against Cremonese, he also scored within a few seconds after the
yes,
the
yes,
the second half.
the same
So
thing.
that would have been really really something. But yeah, Carrarese really had. I think it was 3 chances in the opening 15 minutes of the second. Castrati made a save. It was Milanese who hit the side netting. He steered a shot just wide, so they could have also won. But really, I think you really hit the nail on the hammer, or the hammer on the nail, however that analogy goes. Really, we're going to see a lot of this for the next few games, and Cittadella has to be prepared for that. And it's really going to take full concentration because we're at a point of the season where this team and the other teams around them are really they are in full focus mode. They're not going to really take any more risks, whether that's, sending people forward for a corner kick or I'm just thinking just in general here, or playing it safe, maybe playing a few more risks out of the back. I think we're really going to see the games are going to be decided really by one moment. And for a team like Cittadella, who can't seem to be scoring a lot of goals, this is probably the road to take. Do you kind of agree? I know you said that, but do you do you see that in these next 6 games for Cittadella?
Uh, so how I see next 6 games? I think that maybe if we speak about next game against Sampdoria, could be a kind of game that are the sweet Cittadella mode of kind of playing because as you know, when Cittadella has to do the game to take the role of the important team in the pitch, is not so comfortable doing this kind of game. But when Cittadella has to defend our zone and maybe uh, scored a goal in a counter attack. If he could, it could be the game that Cittadella want to play.
Hmm.
And if, as you know, Sampdoria now is 3 points under Cittadella in the table and has to win because they are in the relegation zone.
Yes.
They,
Well, actually, sorry to cut you off, but we'll talk a little bit more about this game later in the podcast. But yes, continue on. They really have to win.
and maybe Sampdoria has to win and they has to score a goal. Maybe they concede some spaces behind the defense, and Cittadella could score as Cittadella did in Cremonese game, to
Yes.
make an example. But in the other games, especially at home, I don't know if Cittadella could play a game that they want to play, and it's so important in the next 6 games to didn't concede a negative episode as happened in Catanzaro, for
Hmm.
example, or Cittadella didn't have the mental breakdown as happened in Südtirol game at home, as you know, to concede 5 goals in 20 minutes. Now it's not acceptable to have such a such a moment like that because it's so important to not lose. In my opinion, the most
Hmm.
important thing for Città is to not lose the games because now every point matters. And I think that in the other games of Serie B, there will be a lot of draws, as you've seen in the last matches. So not only Città wants to not lose, but also Südtirol, Salernitana, Frosinone, Reggiana, Sampdoria. Every
Yeah.
team now knows that it's so important to move the table 1 point or 3 point. The most important thing is to not to not lose because when you have to fight for not relegated in Serie C, it's important to not lose. And I think that Cittadella in this season didn't have a lot of draws. I don't remember maybe, but I
Hmm.
remember that in the previous season, Cittadella draw more games, and maybe if this year Cittadella had such more draws, now Cittadella could have 38 points, for example, if they draw in Catanzaro. I know that you know the Pisa game at home. It will be another draw. These 2 3 points that will be very important in this moment.
Oh
But
yeah.
Cittadella lost 2 games for this reason they hadn't maybe these 3 points more that some other teams have. For example, Südtirol, Bari, and other teams. take a lot of draws, but a draw the last games, another draw in the game before, and the game before again. You have these
It,
4 or 5 points that will be very important because you know that in Serie B the table is too tight.
Corta, corta,
Yeah,
cortissimo, like
because,
how they say in for that's what Del Canto
short.
said. I think that one time, but yeah, yeah, I totally agree. I think the draws definitely would be important. Just like in that Carrarese game, I think Del Canto and really Carrarese would be happy with the point because it's not a loss, like we said. It's not a win, but it is something that you could build on. It's a clean sheet. You don't give up
Yeah,
anything, so you got to be happy with that. But I do agree that Cittadella needs to find a way to get points and in that case get draws because only on the road, as much as we've been saying how good they are on the road, they've only drawn twice on the road against Cesena and this last game against Cremonese. So definitely it's a lot of hit or miss, but definitely if you remember 2 seasons ago when Cittadella took it to the final day and they drew against Como, they got draws against Bari, they got draws
Bari,
against Südtirol, which in the end was really the difference because they only survived by 1 or 2 points. And that's definitely, you could definitely say that's going to be a factor this season. And, I hate to break it, but I was kind of doing a little calculations and what teams could do, who could win. And I think definitely those 2 points lost against Pisa, at Tavolino, the result, the forfeited draw, I think that's going to come into play because Cittadella could either survive, they could either make the playouts, or they could be automatically relegated. And there's a chance that the teams with them, they're going to be tied for points, or they're going to be just 1 or 2 points above, and those 2 points are going to be really, really. Oh, sorry, 1 point because they ended up drawing that game, but really that's going to be effectful. And also for Pisa's on end because as we know,
yeah,
Spezia defeated Sampdoria. Pisa lost against Modena, so the gap is now 5 points. If you take those 2 points away, it's a 3 points, and Spezia has the tiebreaker. So this is really coming down to the wire. I know it sounds kind of cliche that says every point counts in Serie B and every game counts, but it really does in this league. It really does. Just
exactly.
given how tight the standings are. If Cittadella gets that point against Pisa, if they had held on to that, or if they didn't overturn it, and even if they got that win, if they held on to that win against Cremonese, where they gave up a 2-goal lead, they would be sitting with 38 points. They would be sitting in 11th. So it would be looking like a very, very different story right now. But
And
right now,
with, if you have 38 points, you could prepare the next game with a more relaxed team and not the team
yes.
that has to not lose the other games.
Yes,
So
yes,
yeah.
I totally agree with you. So, but this is the reality. Cittadella currently 15th place on 35 points. 1 point below them is 34 points, 16th Brescia, with tied for 32 points is 17th Reggiana and 18th Sampdoria. That's Cittadella's next game. Then 19th Salernitana, who just fired Roberto Breda, and now incoming Pasquale Marino, who is the ex-Bari coach. And then last place, Cosenza with 26 points. Heartbreaking game for them against Frosinone. That might have condemned them to Serie C. But before we get more into this Sampdoria game, yeah, I just want to kind of touch upon Serie B because, like we said, there's 6 games left. There's still a lot of things to be said. I think everybody below Modena still has a chance to
Yes.
be in that relegated spot because Modena with 41 points, Bari with 41 points in ninth and 10th. I don't think they're going to be relegated. Modena is a very
We are
difficult team
safe.
to play. Yeah, they're going to be fine, even if 41 points might not get it. But they've Modena have won 2 straight. They beat Pisa, so I think they'll be fine. Bari are, I think, too good to be in that race. But looking at Carrarese, Frosinone, Mantova, Südtirol, Cittadella, Brescia, Reggiana, Sampdoria, Salernitana, and who knows, even Cosenza, we've seen them make some miracles in the end. So you never want to count them out until the very end. But kind of these 6 games left. Some coaching changes, like I said, Salernitana, a new coach, Sampdoria, a new coach, Alberico Evani,
Yeah.
who's a new coach, a former Sampdoria player. But going into this final run of games, really, I mean, this might be this is one of the hardest times to predict anything because really you could see anything happening. You could see the top teams lose against the bottom teams because the bottom teams are going to be throwing really the kitchen sink and throwing anything they want at you. But Cittadella's final 6 games at Sampdoria, home against Salernitana on Pesqueta, at Reggiana versus at home against Brescia, away at Frosinone, and they finish at home against Bari. Looking at the other teams, though, I could read you the run-in for the other teams, but who do you think, or yeah, who do you think has the most difficult run of games, and who are you kind of on the eye looking out for? Because I could just think something, right off the top of my head. Frosinone, yes, they are in the most informed teams, but they have a very difficult run of games coming. They've got away against Cesena, away against Sassuolo, home against Spezia, away against Pisa before they play Cittadella. And even on the final day, they have to play away in Palermo. So that's a really hard set of games. Who do you think has, the most difficult path to survival?
I don't know very well the path of every team involved, but I think Frosinone has the worst streak of games in front of it because maybe Sassuolo. I don't know if Sassuolo the last games because Sassuolo, as you know, needs just a win to go in Serie A, but and maybe in the last games they could play so quiet and maybe
Mhm.
some point they could lose some points, but they have to fight against Pisa, Spezia, Cittadella, and I think Frosinone has the worst fixture to in front of them. And I don't know. Sorry, but I don't know the path of the other
Oh yeah,
teams.
it's okay.
I remember that maybe Brescia has
Yeah,
Brescia.
I have them all right here because I'm like that.
Yes.
I write everything down. But yeah, I was thinking about Frosinone. Mantova also has a difficult run in. Yes, but they did win 2 straight games against relegation rivals Sutiro and Brescia. Mantova, they're at home against Spezia. They have 2 home games against Spezia and Catanzaro. Then they play away against Cremonese, home against Cesena, away at Salernitana, and home against Carrarese. So at the end there, they kind of have to
Maybe Mantova
Mantova,
too,
Mantova.
because Catanzaro, Cremonese have have to take the best position in the table for playoffs. Maybe Carrarese in the last game have to take some points to stay safe, and they have Spezia the next game. Spezia wants to win another game because Pisa lost the previous game. So Mantova too has not a good calendar because every game are so difficult, and also Cittadella because Cittadella has a lot of scontri diretti, a lot of clash against teams that are fighting to not relegate in Serie C, and they are so difficult and tough games to play, and it's more difficult because it's not a game against a team that wants to fight for not relegation, and maybe the next game against a team that hasn't a lot of goals to their championship, but every game one against We have now Sampdoria, then Salernitana, then Reggiana, then Brescia, then Frosinone. So fifth time in a row against these teams that wants to stay in Serie B are not easy to play every game again, 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 again with the right mentality, with the right style of play, and you know you don't have to make a mistake in every game because maybe as we have seen against Juve Stabia in that period that we play
in,
away
in
at Castellammare
Castellamare.
di Stabia. Yes, they were fifth or sixth, but they were so nice with their table, and they didn't have this hunt to take a win against Cittadella to stay in Serie B. But maybe they could take a game not so well, maybe as the previous games, and they weren't quite the same time if they lose against Cittadella. So Cittadella could win an important game, maybe because Juve Stabia didn't have this the desire to not lose the game because they have to stay in Serie B.
Hmm.
But in this next game, Cittadella has to play against a lot of teams that want to stay in Serie B and they didn't lose. So it's more difficult to take a win against this team. Maybe
Yes.
Cittadella, I think just the last game against Bari in the final game, they have maybe they will be safe. They can't go in playoffs to take a playoff spot, so they could has not could have not this desire to
Yeah.
win
Yeah.
Cittadella.
If you're Cittadella, I think you got to be hoping either Bari
Yeah,
uh, is already in the playoffs or they're eliminated from the playoffs because
yeah,
you don't want to
yes,
go into that game knowing that they're really gonna throw everything. It's still going to be a difficult game regardless, but you definitely kind of similar to the game against Como a few seasons ago where they had a
yeah,
very limited chance of making the playoffs,
yeah.
but they
We
didn't make it.
draw 0-0, the best result to stay in Serie B because
Hmm.
Como can't go to playoffs because maybe during the game they know that the other teams were winning their games, so they couldn't go to playoffs regardless they win or lose the game that game ago in that time ago.
Yeah, and just kind of going back to the schedule for some of these teams. I was also looking at Reggiana's, and they have a difficult running as well. They're at home against Pisa this week, and they're really in poor form. No wins in 9 games. Just lost against Sassuolo and Cremonese. They're at home against Pisa. Then they're at Brescia and at home against Cittadella. So two relegation opponents there. Away against Modena, which is never an easy game.
It's a
Uh,
derby. It's a derby
a derby
for
too,
them.
yeah, and home against Spezia, and then away at Castellammare in against Juve Stabia. So they have a difficult run in, but yeah, like you said, it's just so hard to predict at this moment because really anything could happen in
Yeah.
this, and it's just like for example, this game against Sampdoria, I have no idea what
Yeah.
Sampdoria is going to be like under Ivani. Like you can make all the predictions you want, but they could either be, looking like the 1991 Scudetto winners, or they could be looking like what they had been looking like in La
Yeah.
Spezia this past week. So, yeah, why don't we get into that game right now? Upcoming on April 12th, 5:15 p.m. Eastern, it's not Eastern, European time, Italy time, 11:15 a.m. Eastern. That's what I was looking for. And a special announcement for everyone. This game will be available for streaming live in English on Destination Calcio TV. That is the sponsor, or not the sponsor. I'm sorry. I'm getting all my words mixed up right now. They are the official broadcasters for Serie B here in North America, and as well as the UK, I believe. So, Destination Calcio, we've had David Farini, one of the founders, on this podcast a few weeks ago. So, go check it out. This game, once again, will be available. So, there is no excuses for anyone to not watch this game. A huge game, a six-pointer game. Like I said, I have no idea what the Semp are going to bring for this game because they are on their fourth coach of the year, Alberico Ivani, after Simplice was sacked after the game in La Spezia. And, who knows if they're going to have a new manager bounce or if they are going to who knows the spirit of Mancini, who is at the training ground. Uh, I don't I don't think he's going to be a part of like the staff, but he's going to support apparently his
Like a supervisor.
yeah. So he's not like
Mancini.
he's not going to be the sporting director. He's not
His
going to be
son,
the
his son, is,
yeah.
his
So
son is
his son is
technical.
Yes. So his son is going to be that, but he's not going to be any part of the staff. He's just going to be kind of the supervisor and the first fan, as he said, in his
Yeah.
own words. So, yeah, it's a last ditch attempt for Sampdoria to try to save themselves as they avoid a relegation to Serie C for their first time in their history. Currently 18th place with 32 points, like we said, 3 points behind Cittadella. This game did end 0-0 in the reverse fixture, so once again, the head-to-head is going to come into play. If Cittadella could avoid defeat or even win this game, they would have the tiebreaker over the Blue Cercati. This alongside one other away game against Reggiana, I think this is just my opinion. I don't know if Carlo, you could agree, but I think this game, as well as the Reggiana game in 2 weeks' time, those are probably the two best chances for Cittadella to get the wins that they need. And I've been saying that 45 points should be enough for Cittadella to get over the line. It might be less than that, it might be more, but genuinely 45 points, even 44 points should get them enough. And if they get those two wins against Reggiana and Samp, they would be pretty much there. And I say that they are the two winnable games because you have to take into account the context of their situations. Sampdoria, 2 wins in 22. They are one of the worst formed teams in the league. However, they do have a new manager, so that might change some things. But nonetheless, the fan pressure is going to be there. I could guarantee you that the Marassi, the Stadio Luigi Ferraris, is going to be one nervous place on Saturday because what relegation would mean for Sampdoria, it would be a absolute catastrophe for Samp. And Reggiana, 1 win since 2025 started. They are not in good form either. Like we've said, they've have a pretty tough run in. They've got to play some teams that are fighting for the playoffs and promotion spots, and as well as the relegation spots as well. Um, Carlo, what do
Yeah.
you do you kind of agree that this is a really golden opportunity? We don't say that often when we say you're going to Genova to play either Genoa or Sampdoria, where this is a really winnable game, but it really is given the situation. However, I think you got to be very careful because like I said, we have no idea what Sampdoria is going to look like on Saturday. So yes, Carlo, take it away.
So if you did this answer to me last week, I can agree with you that I could agree with you that the next game against Sampdoria could be the game to take a win, an important win. But now, after the change of coach for Sampdoria, I'm not sure that that could be a game not easy, but maybe the game to find the win because during the week Sampdoria has changed the coach, the fourth coach, as you said, but Alberico Ivani is not just a simple manager, but is an important Sampdoria figure for
Mhm.
some the fans of Blue Cerchiati because he played for Sampdoria. Then alongside him there. there is Attilio Lombardo, and Attilio Lombardo played for Sampdoria during the first year of 1990s, and there is Roberto Mancini. Is not in the club, but is figuratively with them because he's the supervisor and he was the idol, the idol for all Sampdoria fans. And after this changement, the environment, yeah, will be very nervous because maybe if Cittadella will have the opportunity to score the fourth goal, it will be so important because take the lead and then Sampdoria will be under a lot of pressure because Sampdoria has 32 points, Cittadella 35 points, and if Sampdoria will lose this game, it will be a disaster
Game
for
over.
them. Not maybe because the
Mathematically,
mathematics,
yes, but
but like a game over because Cittadella is the first team above the playoff zone, and
Mhm.
if Cittadella could go
And
away at 4 points, sorry, 6 points from Sampdoria for Blue Cerchiati would be very difficult
and
situation.
yes, yes, and I'd like to add once again that Sampdoria also have a hard or a pretty difficult run-in, I would say, going in. After this Cittadella game, they have to play in Castellammare di Stabia against a very difficult Juve Stabia
Yeah,
team, and then away against Carrarese, two clubs that play on the AstroTurf or the artificial grass. Carrarese, one of
yeah,
very good at home. That's another
yeah.
direct clash. Juve Stabia fighting for playoffs. They have to play against Cremonese. They have to play in Catanzaro. So definitely, this is a really important game
Oh,
for Samp.
okay.
Yes, continue.
No, yeah, and for Sampdoria, it's not in Italian we say ultima spiaggia, but
Hmm.
like similar because they lost the previous two games, and all the fans are so angry now because Sampdoria spent a lot of money in the
Yeah,
last 2 years, and then they are in Serie B, and for a club like Sampdoria is so horrible because Sampdoria stayed in Serie A for a lot of seasons. They won a Scudetto 34 years ago. They are a club with a lot of history, and for fans, it's a very difficult situation to accept. Then they changed four coaches, so it's such a chaos to stay in Sampdoria. But they spent a lot of money also in general transfer market because they bought Altare from Venice, Curto from Cesena, Niang, the
hmm
striker Niang. If you take a look at their team, their lineup, it's so strange to look at Sampdoria in the bottom part of the table because they have a team with a lot of quality, a lot of technical players. So I think that is the whole situation uh, for Sampdoria that is so bad during the year because I think that the headquarter of the club is not so reliable, and because if you change a lot of coaches throughout the year, so I think that the society is not so good. They changed the director two times. it's
hmm
a it's a
Very
it's a
unstable.
rare, very unstable for a team like Sampdoria. But the most important thing for Cittadella is to not concede the first goal because if Sampdoria take the lead, it will be a mountain for Cittadella
I,
to hike because the people I think that I don't think that will be a sold out, but there will be a lot of Sampdoria fans because they have the confidence to go to the stadium because they wanted to do the first game with Devani as a
Hmm.
coach, with Lombardo as assistant coach, with Roberto Mancini in the stands. So it will be a tough place to play, Genoa, but Cittadella away won important games because if you remember, we won at Pisa. That is
Yes.
like simple place. And as I told you before, in the first answer to your questions, I think that maybe it could be a game that could be that could suit the style of play from Cittadella to stay in defense, to not concede a lot of chances from to the opponents, and maybe with a breakaway, with a counter attack, Cittadella could score a goal. But it will be so important, in my opinion, that all the team has to maintain the right mentality during the game, the right attitude during the game, because Sampdoria will have a lot of fans to chant with for Sampdoria, and the players, Cittadella players, they don't they have to be stable during the game.
Hmm.
Mentality, the stable of mentality, it's the most important thing. And for Cittadella, if we will go out from Marassi with a point, it's it's good in my opinion because you stay
Absolutely.
3 points up from Sampdoria, and then Sampdoria have the to win the next games. But Cittadella could stay more relaxing to prepare the next games if Cittadella take a draw in Marassi. And so I think it will be so important the team that scored the first goal.
Yes, I was just about to say. I mean, I had it literally written down. I think the first goal is definitely going to be the decider in this. However, Sampdoria, I've been tracking this. Sampdoria has dropped the most points from winning positions this year. 25 points that they've lost from a winning position, which means they've been in the lead for how many ever times, and they've allowed a team to come back to either draw or to win. And they've dropped 25 points from those positions. But I kind of agree with you. If Cittadella does get that first goal, you're going to start to see the public or the fans at the stadium really get very anxious and very angry. But if Sampdoria do score, I think that would push them on a little bit and to give them a little
Yeah,
life. The first few minutes are going to be very important. Cittadella does not want to give up an early goal, does not want to be chasing it. I agree with you. This game I think would be definitely Cittadella. I think is unlike the Carrarese game where I think both teams would have been happy with the draw. I think this game is more Cittadella would be more happier with the draw than Sampdoria because
yeah,
Sampdoria needs a win. They have 2 wins in their last 22, and they probably I don't think they could survive with just draws from now.
yeah.
They need wins as well as Cittadella, but I think for Cittadella, given their little bit of a separation, they have a little more breathing room at this stage of the moment, at this stage of the right now. But I could
Yes.
definitely guarantee you that this is going to be a very hostile atmosphere, but also a very nervous atmosphere
Yeah, yeah.
because just given the situation Samp is in, I'd say they're probably the team in the bottom half of the table with the most pressure to avoid relegation. If you think of
Yeah,
a club like Cittadella, where they really they shouldn't have never been in this position for many years. They've been surviving for 9 straight years. But a club like Sampdoria, with the history they have, with the players they brought in. They have Coda, Tutino, Nyang, like you just said, coming over who played for Empoli last season. They
yeah,
have all these players, and for them to go to Serie C for their first time being relegated there, that would it would be the end for them. And
yeah,
who knows
yeah,
what's going to happen with their financial difficulties. So it's a huge game for both sides,
yeah.
but I'd argue more for Sampdoria because they have to go out and try to win this. A draw wouldn't be the end for them, but they really have to look at this game and really try to make their home games count because if you remember on the last day of the season, they are hosting Salernitana, which could be a playoff to a playoff. If they might be who knows leveled on points, and whoever wins that game gets to go to the playoffs or survive. We'll see. The only thing is for Cittadella is yes, we've talked about fifth best team on the road this season, 7 wins from and 23 points. So 7 wins, 2 draws on the road. They are very good at the home. That which is why, like I said, given the Sampdoria situation, I think this is a golden chance for
Yeah.
Città to win. However, I have a hard time seeing where the goals are going to come from because well, we saw in the game against Carrarese, yes, Rabi had that chance, but other than that, not much happened. Uh,
Yeah.
Cremonese was better, but we've seen a lot of times this season where just the goals are a problem. It's not so much the defense, well, kind of because they just got to avoid
Last
not
game.
giving up
Yeah.
any episodes. But it really is goals are going to be interesting. We
The
did see
problem.
Davide Dio come in for the game. I thought he did pretty well,
Yeah.
but we still haven't seen much. A little more from Pandolfi, which this could be. We've seen Pandolfi score in some big games, and this would be a time to get it. So, who
Yeah.
in terms of attacking, do you expect Dio to start because he has worked his way up now? And do you see Pandolfi starting or Rabi? I don't know which game this really fits him. So, what do you think?
Uh, in my opinion, uh, I believe Dio. Yeah, if if he is fit, he could play a game. But I think that in the next game he will play the second half, the entire second half, but not from the beginning of the game, but maybe from the start of the second half he could play because he stay away from the pitch for a long time. He plays just 15 minutes against Cremonese. Next game against Carrarese, he has played 30 minutes, and I think next game he will play an entire half. And then the last game against Salernitana, he could start from the first minutes, in my opinion. But or maybe Del Canto want to put Leo from the beginning of the game and then maybe make a substitution from the start of the second half. But he will play, in my opinion, just a first or second half. And I think that Pandolfi next game will start from the first minute, but it's not for a technical reason, but for it depends by the how Pandolfi has trained during the week. Is the problem, is the issue because Pandolfi didn't start from the first minute in the last 6 games. It wasn't for a technical reason, but because, as D'Arcanto said, he was for how Pandolfi has trained during the last weeks.
Do you think
But
it's more attitude or
yeah, yeah,
more
yeah. It's
attitude,
for yeah, yeah, yeah.
mentality?
D'Arcanto said during the press conference post Cremonese game that it was for his attitude. He talked clearly about Pandolfi because during the week uh, Pandolfi didn't train so well, and from the other end, some other players trained very well, and Del Canto decided to put from the first minute that player and not Pandolfi. But in my opinion, Cittadella needs Pandolfi in this final part of the season. It's so fundamental for Cittadella because he's the top scorer, but also he's just the, maybe the a unique striker for Cittadella because he could create a scoring chance from nothing. He could dribble, he could shot from a long range, he could go behind the defense. He is quick, he's fast, he's technical, but he's just a mental attitude. If Pandolfi shows the right mentality during the week and from the first minute of the next game, Pandolfi, in my opinion, will play all games until now, till the end of the season.
Yes.
And then maybe, as you said before, Dio show a good uh, a good performance against Carrarese in the last 30 minutes. As you know, he has just come back after a long time, so maybe just another 1-2 games to take the the best fitness to play. And then Pandolfi Dio could be the right couple of strikers. And I can tell you that Okonkwo has a physical problem in his knee that is like chronical problem, and he can play just 60 minutes. Then from the 60 minutes of the game until the last 30 minutes, he has to he suffer because of these physical problem. And you as you watch during the last games, when there is the 15 minutes of the second half, Dal Canto every time
Helps him
decided
off. Yeah, we saw that against
uh,
Cremonese.
oh yeah, Cascronese against Carrarese, against the Juve Stabia, if you remember. He was subbed off after the first minutes of the second half. Carrarese, Cremonese. Uh, it's Cittadella during this year has a lot of injuries. He was the main problem during the year. But now, with the comeback of Dio, with the comeback of other players, we have just Negro in that he's injured for all of the season. He has finished this season, and we can. I think that on Friday during the press conference, Dal Canto will say to us if Angeli could come back to stay on bench for next games.
Hmm.
So, as you asked me about the two strikers, I think that in the next game, Okonkwo Pandolfi could start from the first minute. Maybe I'm not I can I'm not right, and we start Rabidio from the first minute. But in my opinion, Okonkwo Pandolfi could start from the first minute, and then during the second half, Dio could take the place of Okonkwo,
Yeah.
and it could be the right fit, the right cup, the right fit, because Dio Pandolfi, they are both fast, both quick, both technical, and they could create a good combination in the pitch, because it's not just a matter of strikers. The reason why Stella didn't score a lot of goals during this championship, but it's also a matter of how the team play during the game, because it's not just strikers, but also midfield have to stay close to the strikers. They have to create more chances, create more uh, game during the match. Maybe the defenders have to go near the strikers. So it's not just about strikers, and to stay in this team. I think that in the last game was and will be important the contribution of Tronkin, because for me it's the mezzala, the midfielder that just only Tronkin has a lot of power. He has a lot of, it's box to box, and
Yes.
it's as you against Carrarese in the first half, Tronkin make a good cross for Rabbi, but Rabbi didn't take the ball with the head, so strong to make a goal. In the second half, when Rabbi hit the post, it was Tronkin that shot from the distance. So Tronkin made the assist against for Pandolfi against Pisa. Tronkin made the light assist against Cremonese for the second goal of Rabbi, and Tronkin scored a goal against Sassuolo. I think it will be so important for Cittadella to score a goal. How Tronkin could give in the offensive zone, and you watched that Palmieri played as a
Yes.
number six in the last two
Hmm.
games. It's it could be a good compromesso in Italian. In English is uh,
Hmm.
I don't
I'm
know how
trying
to
to,
say in English.
yeah, yeah. I'm trying to find the word, but yeah.
He's the right player to play in that position because he has a good vision, he has a good left foot, and he's good when the team has to defense, stay in defense zone. So Del Canto has found this midfielder with Vita, Palmieri, and
Yes.
Tronkin, and I think that could be the trio for next for all these games that Cittadella has to play in the
Yeah.
final part of the season.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you. And just kind of going back to Pandolfi and Pandolfi specifically, like I said, he gets up for these type of games. He got up for the game against Pisa. We saw, with the celebration in front of the Pisa bench. We've seen him score in those big games. We've seen him score twice in Palermo late in the game. So he's and also in Bolzano, the huge win against Sutiro on Boxing Day. So he's definitely up for these type of games, and I think in these situations, regardless of his mentality, I think or his attitude at the moment, I think he would definitely be very useful in this match, playing alongside whether that be Okonkwo or Rabi. So, kind of finishing up this podcast, Carlo, I know you were telling me you will be at the press conference on Friday with Dal
Yeah.
Canto, with Cittadella preparing to go to Genova on Friday and then playing on Saturday. So, final thing I want to ask you here is what are you most curious about the squad, and what are you planning on what are you most curious to know about Dal Canto on Friday press
Yeah.
conference?
So I want to know. I would like to know the if I don't think that he will say to us the duo of strikers that will play in Genoa, but I would like to capture who could play from the first half, from the first minute in attack. Then I would like to know what he thinks about Sampdoria and the situation of Marassi with a new coach, with the sacking of Semplici and now the appointment of Evani. If this feature could affect the game for Cittadella. And then I'd like to know if I think Carissone is right. He didn't play against Carrarese, but he's right. He's fit. He hasn't some kind of injury, and it's important because Carissone is a main part of Cittadella during the season,
Right.
and I think he has to play against Sampdoria. And I would like to ask Del Canto if he wants to keep the same defense that played against Carrarese because Capradossi played a good game as a left braccetto. In Italian, we say braccetto in defense. And if he wants to repropose that defense against Sampdoria, and then how important will be the mentality during the game because in this moment, every point matters, and take a point or 3 points in Marashi it's so important. And then I think this will be the most curious things. And then about Sampdoria, who could be the most dangerous player because they had a lot of dangerous players, in my opinion. But during the season, Sampdoria suffered a lot of troubles, and I know that Coda scored 9 goals against Cittadella during his career in Serie B.
Oh yes, yes, we definitely know
Yeah,
he's
I fear Coda because just one opportunity and he scores.
exactly.
Maybe he didn't he doesn't touch the ball for 60 minutes, but they have one ball in the box and he scores.
Yeah,
So it's very dangerous. And then I want to ask you to Del Canto uh, how he thinks Sampdoria will play against Cittadella if they maintain a defense with 3 men or maybe a 4-4-2 or 3-5-2 because anybody doesn't know with Evani how Sampdoria will play against Cittadella in the next
exactly.
games. And just to say one thing, and then I can give to you the word.
Yes,
You
yes,
said that, in your opinion, Cittadella needs 44 or 45 points to stay safe. I make an average, a calculation of point to take the salvezza, and now Cittadella has 35 points after 31 games, and it's safe. And if compare the average after 38 games, Cittadella needs 42 points to stay safe. Yeah, it's just a calculation, but it's not the truth. But
yes, because anything
maybe,
could happen.
yeah, maybe 45 or I hope 43. I think 43 if the situation stay in this way could be necessary to stay safe because 45 points Cittadella has to be 10 points from now until the end of the season. It's not easy. 10 points it means 3 wins and 1 draw or 2 wins and 4 draws. It's not easy. I hope that 43 points could be the right average to the
I
right quote to take
yeah,
the situation.
I think 43 should be at least enough for at least the playouts, if they want to
Yeah.
go through the
Play
playouts.
out, yeah.
But if we remember, Ascoli got relegated last year with 41 points, so that's why I was kind of wary of that point total. But yeah, I'm also curious. Coda, I think. Maybe we should have talked about that a little more, but yeah, he's one of those players where if you give him one opportunity, he's going to kill you. He's going to absolutely. He's a very ruthless striker. He scored a lot of goals against Cittadella in his career, and it's kind of like what we said earlier. Like these games are going to really live off those key moments, the episodes, as they say.
Yeah.
And Coda could definitely make a difference. So that's kind of where we're at as time is running out here. So we kind of have to wrap things up really quickly. As that's kind of all we have got and all we've kind of had to talk about. Cittadella away against Sampdoria, very unpredictable Sampdoria. This coming Saturday, April 12th, 5:15 p.m. European time, 11:15 a.m. Eastern time. Watch the game for free on Destination Calcio TV here in the United States, Canada, and UK. So, with that, Carlo, do you have anything else you want to add before we kind of wrap things up?
But just to thank you for inviting me in your podcast. It's always a pleasure to talk with you about Cittadella. It's very nice, and not just to say that that Kant is a very nice person. If you want to know, it's very nice during the press conference of the zone. So it's very nice. And then if anybody wants to read my articles, could go to could read Corriere del Veneto inside the Corriere della Sera. It's a regional newspaper, and
Yes.
I think it's it's over for me.
All right. Yeah, I'll definitely I'll leave a link to the to Carlo's work on in the description below. But yes, thank you, Carlo, for taking the time. I know we kind of went a little over today on time, but there was just so much to talk about, so much to dive
Yeah,
into in this world for Cittadella. But yes, thank you everyone for listening to the CittaCalcio USA show. You can follow Carlo on Instagram, I believe. You're
yeah.
on Instagram
Carlo
and
Cecino, yes.
yes, and
Oh
then
yeah.
for me as well, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, CittaCalcio USA, and our website, CittaCalcioUSA.com, for info, news, articles, previews, recaps, all that stuff at CittaCalcioUSA.com. Cittadella, here we go at the Marassi this upcoming Saturday against Sampdoria. Kickoff once again 5:15 p.m. European time, 11:15 a.m. Eastern. So huge, huge game. We'll talk all about it next week, and let's see what will happen. But for me, from CittaCalcio USA and Carlo Cecino, thank you for listening to this episode of the CittaCalcio USA show. We will see you next week, and as always, Forza Citta. Thank you for listening to the CittaCalcio USA show. If you liked it, please share and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at CittaCalcio USA. See you next time, and remember, Forza Citta.